Mayor Harrell, you've selected Sean Barnes as Seattle's new police chief. Why is he the best choice?
Well, he is a national leader in certain areas that I really wanted to focus on for our city. Number one, are the recruitment of women. Under his leadership, he's recognized for having a almost 28% workforce in Madison, Wisconsin, for his recruiting and retention efforts. If you also look at the homicides down, it's almost 67% in Madison. You look at burglaries, shots fired, all of the statistics that I like to measure success by, he checked all boxes. So he's a nationally respected leader, and we're really excited to have his leadership here. And I think we're very fortunate to have Chief Barnes to choose Seattle as his new home.
You mentioned more recruitment, and particularly of women. How else do you think Chief Barnes will transform the Seattle Police Department?
Well, you know, he's sort of an academician type. You know, he holds a PhD, and he's very evidence-based, data-based. And I really like that approach. A great leader in policing, I believe, in modern policing, is able to sort of do those intangibles, inspire the troops, and motivate them in any way that he or she believes they should be motivated, but also use evidence-based techniques, best practices throughout the world. And I think he's known for that, and so that's what I was looking for.
Sean Barnes, Chief Barnes, is coming from Madison, Wisconsin. You've mentioned that. It's a much smaller city and a much smaller police department. What makes him poised to lead Seattle and in a much bigger city?
Yeah, so Madison, if you look at it, actually, it's sort of a college town. Its demographics are very similar to Seattle. They have some of the same challenges in terms of violent crime, shots fired. And I don't believe you have to be from a large city or a small city or mid-sized city to have the kind of skill set that we were looking for in this kind of search. And again, we are very fortunate to put Seattle in a position to attract this kind of talent. You know, a great police chief is sort of, there's not an abundance of them. And we were just fortunate to have people to look at Seattle and see it for the beautiful city that it is. So we've clearly changed the narrative about what people see about Seattle. People are coming here, and again, small or large or mid-size, we wanted that skill set that we found in Chief Barnes.
When can we expect Chief Barnes here in Seattle?
Well, we're looking at, I think, the last day of this month or the first day of February, right around that time frame. As we know, there were some unfortunate events in Madison that required him to be there, and I really support the folks in Madison. I talked to the mayor a few weeks ago, but we'll see him at the end of this month, hopefully 1st of February.
Okay. Mayor, in the past, Seattle has been under intense scrutiny over police practices. How will you and the new police chief ensure accountability?
Yeah, we have, we have one of the best accountability systems in the country. If you look at the use of force and the limitations or elimination of unreasonable force, we're doing quite well. We are nowhere near where I want us to be, but statistically, we're doing extremely well. But we'll continue to measure it. We are known now, we've received national recognition as being a data-based city. And I think, you know, I come from technology and telecom, and so when we measure force and when we have to make emergency responses and people sometimes are having a crisis situation, we're very careful to still believe in accountability. So we have a strong, robust system, and we will make sure it remains in place and possibly even improve it. So that's one of the areas we may focus on to make sure that we continue to implement best practices on accountability.
The need for a new police chief comes after the removal and firing of Adrian Diaz, and we learned there were major concerns about conflict of interest and allegations of improper relationships. What are you doing to ensure a higher standard of professionalism?
Well, you know, I terminated police chief for lack of honesty and professionalism. And so when I looked for the new chief, I wanted to make sure that he or she sort of epitomized exactly what we were looking for. So I think that leadership starts at the top. And I think we have found sort of a new page in the chapter, if you will. And I think that's the first thing I could do is hire a chief that has a reputation for just stellar performance and professionalism in how he or she would conduct their business.
Seattle has a reputation for embracing progressive policies. Also, though, growing frustration with crime, especially violent crime that we've reported on recently. How do you envision that changing in this new year?
Yeah. And I wanted to mention that one of the attributes of Chief Barnes is his sharp decrease. I want to say it's like 67% decrease in homicides. So if you look at the implementations that we've done, downtown Seattle as an example, you'll see close to a 27% decrease in violent crime. You'll see a decrease in medical responses, almost 27%, 30%. You'll see a decrease in 911 calls. And so again, we've implemented new technology, new systems in place. So we're pretty bullish on making sure that we're protecting everyone. And quite candidly, it took a while to build these kinds of systems, because here you have police officers, you have health responders, you have street sweepers, so to speak, people cleaning the area. So you need to have a very coordinated, data-based approach and a health approach to some of these issues we're facing. You can't just come in here and arrest everyone when in fact a lot of these people are sick, but you also have to have the kind of systems in place to arrest when you need it. If you look at Chinatown International District as an example, we recently made 14 arrests that you build cases, but you also have to convince the community that you're not arbitrarily just arresting people randomly. So this is the kind of work that we'll continue to do, and the evidence is paying off. And so I tell my rank and file, and I'm very proud of our officers on how they are conducting their business. Very proud of these men and women. And I routinely say we don't take victory laps, because the people in Seattle, they have a high expectation for safety, and we have to meet that expectation.
How do you respond to critics who say, okay, yes, we can look at the numbers and maybe there are more arrests, maybe there is less violent crime according to data, but the average person is not looking at that data. They still see the headlines of very violent attacks and sometimes very random, and they feel that Seattle is less safe.
Yeah, the first thing is they have to realize is they have elected a mayor whose highest priority to protect people. And when I see random acts of violence, when I see the number of guns out there in the street in the wrong hands, under our administration, we seized over 5,500 guns. That's 5,500 guns. So the first thing they have to know is that I will do everything possible under the law to protect people, number one. Number two is they also see throughout this country and even in cities outside of Seattle the same kinds of acts of violence. So on a national basis, I think we have to have a national discussion. You know, I've had the privilege to be in different countries where they don't have this kind of gun violence. And so when people are fearful, and rightfully so, I share their fear, and I'll do everything possible to get the guns out of the right hands, to change the policies by which people cannot get these kinds of guns to protect everybody.
Does that include more patrols?
Absolutely. If you look at our recruiting numbers, we had the highest number of recruits that we've had in 10 years. We're receiving almost 12 to 13 applications a day. Last year we received over 4,000 applications. And so what we've done under our administration is change radically our recruiting methods, increase the morale, increase the compensation to make sure we're getting the best of the best. And so our efforts are paying off. And that's how you get the good pipeline of more police officers getting out of the cars, walking in communities, and quite honestly, letting the bad people know we mean business in the city to protect everybody. That is a message we send out every single day. And again, I'm very proud of our men and women in our police department for doing the work that they do.
You mentioned more recruiting last year, and I know your office is going to put out some information on that today. But how does that actually translate to people, police officers being hired? And I know there is still a staffing shortage, right?
Yeah, well, for the first time in a decade, we are, as I said earlier, we have more people now in the pipeline, over, I was just say thousands. Let me strike that. You guys put that on the editing floor here.
Let me ask you that again.
Okay.
You mentioned additional recruiting in the past year. There is still a staffing shortage, though, in the Seattle Police Department, right?
Yeah. Yes, there is. But if you look at what we're doing now, we have over 4,300 applications in the pipeline for people who want to be Seattle police officers. That is the highest number in 10 years. If you look at how many we're receiving per day, between 12 and 13 applications a day. So we are now in the trajectory where we are hiring more officers than those who are departing. Now, when I took office, there were a lot of officers that were eligible for retirement, and they paid their dues, and we support their efforts to retire. But now we're turning the curve, hiring more officers that are retiring, and again, the pipeline is really robust. And so this is intentional work that we've been doing, and it's going to pay dividends here in the future.
Are you hoping the announcement of a new chief will attract more officers?
Well, yes, and I think that it already has. We've all around town that since it's been announced, we've been sort of getting pats on the back and saying we look forward to turning the chapter. The situation with former Chief Diaz is we take no pride in having to terminate a person, but what we have to do, what's expected of me, is to always keep the best of the best around. And when we make tough decisions, we make them, we own them, and we move forward. And so we have in Chief Barnes, again, a nationally respected person in certain areas that I think we can improve, and I'm just excited about it.
You mentioned that it's an approach that requires a lot of different attacking it from different angles. I want to talk a little bit about mental health. How does your administration plan to support mental health programs? I know you've already been in office for quite some time, but what resources are being allocated, and is anything changing this year?
Sure. Well, the first thing I have to impress upon people is that the health department is not run by the city. It's run by the county, and you have federal dollars involved as well. And so the city's role in the health space, if you will, is more indirect than direct. And I don't say that to blame the county. I say that for people to realize that I cannot address often a public safety issue. Let me strike that. I cannot address a crisis with a public safety issue at all times when someone's experiencing mental illness, drug addiction. Now, what we have done is, if you look at, we're the first city in the country to look at how we're using certain kinds of treatment options, whether it's buprenorphine or Narcan and these types of treatment crisis response medications and products. But that's on the back end of the problem. And so what we are doing now is working with the Board of Health, again run by the county, and how we can be rapid, how we could build more facilities. And that's part of this, the role that the city can do, is make sure we have some of these emergency crisis facilities around. So you're seeing us do that around town. So I think the county understands this now. I think the new governor understands this and some of the work that we're doing. This fentanyl crisis now doesn't know just a border in Seattle. So you're going to see, I think, a stronger coordinated effort in our health approach. And the city, we will lead the way, but again, we're not in the health space per se.
Mayor, you might want to also mention mental health.
Yeah, so there's two things I should mention, is that as we prepare a levy to look at the schools and we use our budget last year, we are spending in the tune of $20 million for our youth health efforts. We realize many of these kids are traumatized. It's hard to learn in that situation, so you'll see that investment that we will roll out. And even in something as simple as the experience of a bus ride in our transit, how we provide bus and transit services. You'll see in our levy over $9 million for safety for our passengers. And so we're trying to be as aggressive as possible to protect people, particularly the youth.
You mentioned transportation and schools, and I will ask you about those as well. But oftentimes, mental health issues go hand in hand with homelessness, so I want to transition there. Washington has the third highest homeless population in the U.S., according to a recent federal report. Seattle has faced criticism for slow progress in addressing homelessness. Despite significant monetary investment, how do you respond to critics that say the city is simply not doing enough?
Yeah. Well, number one, I take all criticism as just feedback. And what I will say is that people continue to move here. We're still one of the rapidly growing cities in this country. And we do have a wealth gap. Now, for the same reason human beings like to come to Seattle, many of them are limited and impoverished. So we do attract all kinds of people, whether they are wealthy or not wealthy. That's the first issue. The second issue is we are actually held up in many circles on our strategies, on our housing first approach, and how we use shelter in certain ways, and even tiny homes. If you look at Seattle specifically, we are the largest provider of tiny homes in the state. If you look at the number that are distributed throughout the region. So we are recognized for our aggressive best practices approach, but we have to also understand that in a wealthy city like Seattle, people do fall through the cracks. And so we look at the data, we analyze it, and if there's anyone doing anything better than us, I will copy it and replicate it, and we will have it here. We are that aggressive on our housing, and that's why we passed one of the largest housing levies in our history, $970 million. That's why you look at our comp plan that we're developing, we're looking at where we can build housing. We realize we have a housing strategy, so a housing shortage, and so we're doing everything we think makes sense. And we'll take the criticism because, again, it's information, but we're actually respected for a lot of the work that we're doing.
Let's talk about the Seattle One plan that was finalized yesterday. And in terms of housing, it calls for a lot more affordable housing in the city of Seattle. Some people are saying, though, the city doesn't have the infrastructure to support that. How do you respond to those critics?
Yeah. So in looking at where we can place housing and how we go about that, there's going to be criticisms on every side. Some will say too much housing, too much density. Some will say not enough housing, not enough density. So we look at what we can build. We look at how aggressive we can build it. We cost things out. We are very, when we had a $240 million shortfall, I was able to address it without cutting core services or raising any taxes. And so we will approach our housing situation the same way. We'll be as efficient as possible. We will streamline the permit process to the best we could. I'm currently looking at how certain departments within the city can streamline their own processes and work more collaboratively. So every way we could save money and become more effective for those developing housing, we will do that.
In terms of adding more housing to the city of Seattle, is that focused on the downtown core and Pioneer Square, Belltown, or are you going to look at other areas too where we can build up?
All of the above.
Okay.
We do recognize that, again, there is a need for single-family housing, that an apartment building cannot go in every single block in every single neighborhood, that we don't have the infrastructure, the public safety capabilities, the parking capabilities, all those things that come into the infrastructure, even the parks situation. One thing I'll just sort of throw in here is that Madison, Wisconsin is nationally known for as a city of parks. And I take great pride in our park system. And even when you embrace density, we have to look at the need for open space and parks, and that's why I brought that up now. So we understand the critics, but we also want to make sure that our city is not only affordable, but livable and safe. And so all those components go into our plan, and I think that's why we came up with a pretty strong plan.
On that note, also schools is something that attracts families to certain cities. There's been a budget shortfall in the Seattle Public Schools. How are you working with the school district to ensure that public education remains strong here in Seattle during your tenure?
Yeah, a couple of things, and I met with the superintendent, Dr. Brent Jones, just last week. I want Seattle to be known as one of the safest places for kids and students. I want that to be sort of our narrative. And so the first thing I could do as we prepare a levy for next year for the school district is to center it around making sure the learning experience is a safe one. And then look at pre-K work and look at brain development in early years and making sure that daycare is affordable. So the whole experience from the parent to the child from 0 to 4, for example, is just a continuum of safety, nurturing, and best practices educationally. So, and I understand they just elected a new school board president, so I look forward to working with her, and we'll figure it out together. So this is a situation where, even looking at their buildings as an example, when I see their unused buildings, I see potentials for housing, little nonprofit spots that they could, or safety organizations can be embedded. I see daycare. I see just sort of cool areas that we can optimize for the purpose of keeping everyone happy and safe. So, and I'm confident that the numbers in the school district will continue to rise if we implement the kind of vision centered around safety and a nurturing continuum.
I know you mentioned transportation. I want to ask you about your plans for increasing public transportation, and then also ensuring safety, because there have been some very violent incidents either on public transit or near public transit, the bus stops, for example, in the CID, or on the bus, the Metro bus near the U District. What are your plans this year for not only increasing transportation, but making sure it's safe?
Yeah, again, you will see that we put in over $9 million specifically in our transportation budget to center on this issue. And I sit on the board of the Sound Transit Executive Board, and working with the county, again, the county runs our Metro bus system, making sure that we are coordinating an approach. And so when I have monthly calls with our King County executive, or I have caucuses with King County council members, this comes up routinely. And I just ask the question, what can I do to assist you around your bus stations with Sound Transit as an example? So we recognize this is a problem. And again, when we recently conducted over a dozen arrests around 12th and Jackson, a lot of that is around a bus stop that was closed. We recognize these areas have to be safe, and we'll continue to double down on our efforts to make sure we lead with transit in our transportation plans. We realize that this is the smart way to get around. It's climate friendly, and so we want to make sure that's a great experience. And I'm not happy with where we are, and again, we'll coordinate this. This has to be done in coordination with the other jurisdictions, though, and so I need the same kind of intensity with my other agencies as we have on our side, and I think we're going to see that.
Do you feel like you have a strong working relationship with those other agencies?
I really do. I think they understand the issues. They understand the issues. We all are faced with this fentanyl crisis, that people are killing themselves on the streets, and people are congregating in areas for this drug that they have easy access to for 50 cents a pill, and it's destroying their lives, and it's destroying people around them that need to use critical facilities. And that's why you see in the downtown activation plan that we have in downtown, you see remarkable results, because basically under our administration, we just have no tolerance for that. We're trying to treat, again, from a health approach, these folks that are killing themselves, but they have to recognize also that I have zero tolerance for this kind of misconduct in certain areas. And so that's the approach we're going to keep taking, and it's paying off dividends, and we're not where we want to be, but we will get there.
You said we're not where we want to be, but we're going to get there, and I respect that. But how do you feel the cleanup has gone through downtown Seattle? I know that has been a focus of your administration in terms of getting people that are using drugs off the streets.
Well, number one is, and I appreciate the question, and I'm faced with that question every day. And every day I go, people say, man, I see the change. I see the energy. I see the results of your investments. I see the morale of your officers. And I'm a high energy person. I always have been. And so it's easy to sit on the sidelines and just critique. And I tell anyone that has a criticism, come and help us try to change the narrative. So you see remarkable progress. Right now, if we go down the streets, you will not see what you saw 3-4 years ago by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, so at some point, I tell folks, yeah, I could look at, I could be blind and just say it's as bad as it was several years ago. It is not. But I never say that I'm satisfied with what we see. So that's the energy that I think an effective mayor has to have, and we will keep doing it. And I have to be an optimist. I don't quit. I don't give up. You know, I have an athletic background. That's the way I played ball. As my kids say, that's the way Harrell gets down. I will clean up these areas. And if you have a better idea, or you, I will say, let me listen to it. Is it database? Is it evidence-based? We have in Chief Barnes someone that understands this approach. So, but I'm very transparent when I say, you know, I'm not going to be satisfied until I could take my grandchildren on every block in this city and hold their hands and say, look at this place. This is a beautiful place. That's the energy and the tenacity I think a mayor has to have, and that's what we have.
You have said you are seeking re-election. I want to ask you about this term as mayor, and what has been your biggest challenge, and how have you overcome it?
I wasn't ready for that question. But my biggest challenge, I would think, is developing the systems in place internally for, when I talk about One Seattle, you know, having over 40 departments really working together, really caring about the other department. I think it's very easy to just care about your own department. Hey, that's their problem. Or even our two major utilities, Seattle City Light and Seattle Public Utilities. Hey, we're just in a utility world. And I think my biggest challenge has been to impress upon the employees that we are one city of a block of employees, and the public demands us to work together as a team. And we now we've made great improvement, and that's how we're able to get the work that we're done. So it was just a lack of systems in place, a lack of design in place. And I guess another challenge would be the morale, the sentiment of the city. We're coming out of COVID, we're coming out of George Floyd. We're trying to find, well, how are we going to be, or who are we going to be after all of this? And a lot of people have their head down, and Seattle is, I said, Seattle's not dying, Seattle is thriving. You just read in the newspaper today, perhaps, that we signed one of the biggest leases with Apple coming downtown since 2019. We are still growing, people are still coming to Seattle. So one of the biggest challenges has been to tell people, lift your head up. We are going to create the city that we can be. Seattle is a cool city. All around the country, people talk about Seattle, and there's a reason. So I'd say twofold, the systems and then just the attitude on how you build a great city.
What are the priorities for the remainder of your term, and if you are reelected?
Priorities will be, again, around public safety. But as we improve public safety, not to the detriment of education, climate change, having just a clean park, for example, some of the basics. And so when I talk about, we've just now sort of had the systems in place, what I call the ecosystem of a great city. Because you can't, if you have a great downtown, but your parks are just trash, right? You're not winning. And so when I look at the experience of living in Seattle, housing is critical, affordability, parks, and public safety. So that whole ecosystem, we have systems in place now. How can we improve them? So you may see some internal changes within the city that we're designing, but for the first 3 or 4 years, what we had to really do is just get to the basics. Design systems internally for people to work together and coordinate their efforts, change the morale of the city, make sure that we say we want businesses to be in Seattle. We don't hate businesses. We like employers and employees working together and succeeding. We want 7-minute response times. We don't hate the police. We like our police, okay? So what you're gonna see is in the near future here, a continuum of building on the systems we've put in place. And I gotta tell you, it's been a lot of hard work, but I have a great team with me in this city of employees, and we're real proud of that.
You mentioned businesses. I quickly want to ask you about small businesses in Seattle. A lot of business owners are frustrated. They've had to repair windows sometimes 2-3 times in a row. There's continuous break-ins. What do you say to those folks?
Yeah, well, what we have is Seattle, we have 2 things going for us. We have a Seattle Restored program, which is designed for broken glass, as an example. And we have, I think this year, over $800,000 in the budget. I'm actually going to try to raise more money for that from the private sector, if possible, to make sure that those businesses, they're just trying to succeed, and then someone throws a brick through the window, we want to help them repair the window. And then we want to be able to invest into even more positive things, whether it's signage or other types of crime prevention through environmental design improvements, whatever we can do to help that business. And just from a policy standpoint, whether it's a tax policy or the wage policy or the permit policies, whatever we can do to support small businesses. So you'll see a lot of the work we have one project called the Liberty Project, where we're giving these small businesses technical assistance, strategic planning, human resource development assistance. And so whatever we can do to help these small businesses succeed, we want to be a thriving place for them. And so we're going to continue to invest in these areas.
On the flip side of that, you mentioned Apple, we have Amazon here, so many big companies in Seattle. It's known as a tech city. How are you ensuring that we keep that reputation, that tech companies want to be in Seattle?
Yeah. So, I mean, I literally have conversations with both tech companies and the ancillary companies that sort of feed off of the tech world. I literally go to meetings with these folks, talk to leasing agents to make sure that we are recruiting that kind of talent, number one. Number two, we're also our port, maritime, and industry city as well, and so I never lose sight of the fact that we have strong labor partners, strong maritime partners, and we're one of the few cities as a port city that has the beauty of having tech, biotech, maritime, and industry all together, and that's how we attract talent. And so at the end of the day, what the tech companies need are they need good engineering talent and good talent even for supporting spouses and partners. And so when we recruit, we sell the city of Seattle, and that's how we make sure we have a strong tech community. We're known for it, but we want to play to our strengths, and that is one of our strengths.
I know we're wrapping up here, but I do want to ask you before we leave. So many people are saying, gosh, it's really expensive to live in Seattle. I know you're mentioning affordable housing, but what does living in Seattle look like for the average person, in your opinion, where they can afford to enjoy the entertainment, enjoy the transportation, the beautiful things our city offers? For so many people, it's just still so hard right now. What do you say?
Yeah, what I say to that person, and well, let me be literal, what I say to my young adult children who are, starting young families and dealing with those kinds of issues is, as a city, we will do everything possible to make sure, whether it's your power bill, your water bill, everything we can, the cost of housing, we'll do everything possible to drive those down, number one. And number two is when our comp plan, for example, when we're trying to brace more housing, that is one of the reasons why, supply and demand issues would dictate that the more housing we can have, the way that the prices will go down. And number three, I deal with mayors across the city on this exact same issue, that Seattle has become increasingly unaffordable, and what kinds of either federal, state, or local policies can be put in place to help that person who's struggling. I grew up in a Seattle where, a retired veteran could live in the city, or a barista, or a nurse, and we fully recognize the challenges that that demographic would have. So everything possible we will do to help that person, and we realize their pain.
Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
Did I miss anything, Jamie? You're around the whole world. I think we captured everything. So no, thank you. Thank you. I think we got it. I hope you can use some of that.
Okay.
Cut out the bad parts.
Of course, we will edit it. Yes, thank you so much.